Vectar woke up in darkness. His breathing mask hissed with each breath, too loud in the silent mining station. Pain shot through his lower body where the drilling machine had crushed his leg 3 days ago. Or was it 4? Time moved strangely when you were dying alone. He tried to move, but the pain made his vision blur. His chitinous exoskeleton had cracked in several places. Green blood had dried on the floor beneath him. The emergency medical foam had stopped the bleeding, but that was all it could do. He needed proper surgery, proper care. He needed his crew. But his crew was gone. Vectar pulled himself across the cold metal floor with his upper arms. Each movement sent waves of agony through his body, but he had been trained to endure. All Jathic were trained to endure. Pain was just information. Death was just an ending. He reached the control panel and pulled himself up. His 3 good legs shook as they took his weight. The screens glowed softly in the dark, showing him what he already knew. The mining station was on minimal power. Life support was failing. The communication array had been deliberately disabled. Standard procedure. He would have done the same. When a Jathic worker became injured beyond immediate repair, the crew moved on. Resources were precious. Time was precious. Why waste both on someone who could not work? It was logical. It was efficient. It was the way of the Confederation. Vectar had seen it happen to others before. He had never questioned it. Now he was the one left behind, and he still did not question it. This was simply how things were. He checked the life support readings. 6 days of oxygen remained, maybe 7 if he stayed very still. Water for 5 days, food for 3, though he had little appetite. The cold was already seeping into his bones. In the vacuum of space, the asteroid mining station had no warmth of its own. The heating system would fail before the oxygen did. 3 days then, maybe 4. That was how long he had. Vectar opened his personal log and began to record his final thoughts. Every Jathic did this. Their last words would be sent back to the collective, added to the great database of knowledge. Even in death, they contributed. This is Engineer Vectar, Station K477, Day 4 since the accident. His voice sounded strange to his own ears, weak and thin. The drilling mechanism failed due to metal fatigue in Sector 7. I was attempting repairs when the support beam collapsed. My lower right leg was crushed. The injury is severe. He paused, gathering his thoughts. What else was there to say? Crew. Leader Tharvik made the correct decision to abandon station. I was unable to work. My presence would have slowed the mining operation by 17%. Resources allocated to my care would have reduced overall efficiency by 9%. The mathematics were clear. He looked around the empty station. Equipment sat silent in the darkness. The mining drill now still. The ore processors now cold. And him, soon to be another piece of abandoned equipment. I do not fault the crew. I served the Confederation for 23 cycles. My work contributed to the expansion of our territory and the prosperity of our people. This is sufficient legacy. Vectar ended the recording and set it to transmit when any ship came within range. It would be months, maybe years. This asteroid field was nearly depleted. No one would come back here soon. He pulled himself to the observation window and looked out at the stars. They were beautiful, cold and distant and utterly indifferent. Somewhere out there, his crew was continuing to the next asteroid, the next mining site. Life went on. The Confederation went on. He would not. Vectar felt no anger, no bitterness. Fear, yes. He feared the slow suffocation, the cold, the pain. But he did not rage against his fate. Rage required the belief that things should be different. He had no such belief. This was simply the way things were. He returned to the crew quarters and lay down on his sleeping platform. The pain was worse when he moved, so he would move as little as possible. Conserve oxygen, conserve energy. Wait for the end with dignity. The silence pressed in around him. In space, no one could hear you scream, but Vectar would not scream. He would die as he had lived. serving the logic of the Confederation, accepting the mathematics of survival. Outside the window, the stars turned slowly as the asteroid rotated. Beautiful and cold, indifferent and eternal. Vector closed his eyes and tried to sleep. Perhaps he would not wake up. Perhaps it would be easy. He doubted it, but he could hope. In the darkness of the mining station, on an asteroid at the edge of mapped space, Vector waited to die. Alone. Abandoned. Forgotten. The way it was supposed to be. The way it had always been for those who could not keep up, who could not contribute, who could not serve. The universe had no room for weakness. The Confederation had no resources to waste on the broken. He was broken now, so he would die now. Simple, logical, efficient. The mathematics were clear, the silence was absolute. The stars did not care. On the fourth day, Vector's sensors detected something impossible. A ship, approaching. He dragged himself to the control panel, his broken leg leaving a thin trail of dried blood across the floor. The pain had become a constant companion now, a dull throb that never fully left. His breathing was shallow. The oxygen was thinner than it should be, but there was a ship. The scanner showed it clearly. Vector felt a moment of hope, then crushed it immediately. Hope was illogical. If a ship was coming, it was either salvage crews or pirates. Salvage crews would see he was alive and leave. No profit in rescue. Pirates would kill him and take everything. Either way, his death was certain. He checked the readings again. The ship was strange. Very strange. The energy signature did not match any vessel in the Jothic database. Not Confederation. Not the Creel Empire. Not even the mysterious Voth traders who sometimes passed through this sector. This was something else entirely. The ship was also enormous. Easily 10 times the size of a standard mining vessel. Its power output was incredible, far beyond what should be possible with known technology. What kind of ship was this? Vector tried to activate the station's weapons, but they had been stripped before the crew left. Standard procedure. He was defenseless. All he could do was wait and see who or what had found him. The ship drew closer. Through the observation window, Vector could see it now with his own eyes. It was massive and dark, covered in armor plating. Weapon ports lined its hull. This was a military vessel, a powerful one. But which military? Which species? His radio crackled to life. Vector jumped, his heart's racing. The distress beacon had been disabled. How were they? A voice came through, speaking in broken, heavily accented Jothic. Station occupant, this is the TCS Indomitable. We received your distress signal. Are you in need of assistance? Vector stared at the radio in confusion. TCS, what did that mean? And what distress signal? The beacon had been turned off. He keyed the transmitter with shaking hands. This is Engineer Vector. The distress beacon was disabled. How did you find me? A pause. Then the voice returned, sounding confused by his confusion. Your beacon was off, yes. But your life support system is failing. It creates a specific radiation pattern when the recyclers malfunction. We monitor all frequencies in this sector. We saw the signature and came to investigate. Vector's mind struggled to process this. They monitored for failing life support? They came to investigate? What kind of species did this? What was the profit? The purpose? I do not understand, he said finally. Why would you waste resources on investigation? What do you want from this station? Another pause. The voice sounded genuinely puzzled. We don't want anything. You're in distress. We came to help. Is anyone else aboard with you? No. My crew evacuated 4 days ago after my injury. I am alone. Silence on the other end. When the voice returned, it sounded different. Harder, colder. Your crew left you? You were injured and they left you? Yes, I cannot work. I consume resources. This is standard procedure for the Confederation. More silence. Vector could hear muffled voices in the background, speaking in a language he did not recognize. The tone sounded angry. Finally, the voice returned. Engineer Vector, this is Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Confederation ship Indomitable. We are sending a boarding team to you now. We will provide medical assistance and evacuation if you consent. Terran. Vector searched his memory. He had heard of Terrans vaguely. A new species recently emerged onto the galactic stage. Young, primitive by some accounts. They came from a planet called Earth. Commander Chen, Vector said carefully. I appreciate the offer, but I must inform you that I have no resources to trade. I cannot pay for rescue. My government will not pay ransom. There is no profit in helping me. We don't want profit, the commander said, and her voice was firm. We don't leave people behind ever. Prepare for boarding. Try to stay calm. We'll have you out of there soon. Vectar did not understand. Nothing about this made sense. Who spent resources without expectation of return? Who risked their ship and crew for a stranger? What kind of insane species were these Terrans? Through the window he watched as a small craft detached from the massive ship. It moved toward the station with purpose. Inside he could see figures in thick white suits carrying equipment. They were really coming. They were really going to board the station. For him, for no reason he could comprehend. Vectar pulled himself to the airlock and waited. His leg throbbed. His breathing was labored. The cold had seeped into his very core. He was dying, and everyone knew it. The mathematics were clear, so why were the Terrans coming? The airlock hissed as it equalized pressure. Vectar watched through the small window as the boarding craft connected. Magnetic clamps locked into place with solid thunks. Red lights turned green. The outer door opened. 3 figures in bulky white suits stepped inside. The door closed behind them. The chamber pressurized. The inner door opened. Vectar got his first look at a human being. They were small, bipedal. No exoskeleton, just soft flesh covered by artificial armor. Their faces were visible through clear helmets, flat with forward-facing eyes. Predator eyes. But the eyes showed concern, not hunger. The lead figure approached slowly, hands visible and empty. Engineer Vectar? The voice was female, matching Commander Chen. I'm Sarah. We're here to help. Can you tell me where you're injured? Vectar gestured weakly to his crushed leg. Sarah knelt beside him, and another human, wearing a suit marked with red symbols, came forward with a medical scanner. Why? Vectar asked. Why are you doing this? Sarah looked at him through her helmet. Her face was strange, alien, but her expression was clear. Determination, compassion. Because you need help, she said simply, and we're here. The human medic worked quickly. His name was David, and his hands were steady despite the bulky suit gloves. He ran a scanner over Vectar's crushed leg, making soft clicking sounds with his tongue. Compound fracture, severe tissue damage, signs of infection starting, David said to Sarah. But it's treatable. We need to get him to the medical bay. Treatable. The word hung in the air. Vectar had assumed his injury was death sentence. Apparently the humans disagreed. Can you stabilize him here? Sarah asked. Yeah, give me 5 minutes. David opened a medical kit and pulled out supplies. Vectar watched in amazement as the human injected something into his leg. The pain began to fade almost immediately. Then David sprayed a thick foam over the wound. It hardened into a cast, holding everything in place. This will do until we get you aboard, David said, his tone gentle. You're going to be okay. The third human, an engineer named Torres, was already working on the station systems. Commander, this place was deliberately shut down. Communication array destroyed, not damaged. Someone made sure no one could call for help. Sarah's jaw tightened. Vectar could see anger in her face, though she tried to hide it. Standard procedure, she said quietly. Right, Vectar? Yes, Vectar confirmed. He did not understand her anger. Why waste power on a non-functional worker? It is logical. It's monstrous, Sarah said flatly. You're a person, not a machine. You have value beyond your ability to work. Vectar did not know how to respond. In his entire life, no one had ever said such a thing. Value beyond work? What did that even mean? Torres made a disgusted sound from the control panel. They took all the food, all the medical supplies, even the spare oxygen canisters. They left him with nothing. They left what was allocated, Vectar said. More would be waste. David shook his head. Where we come from, we call this attempted murder. Murder requires intent to kill, Vectar said. They simply did not intend to save. There is a difference. Not to us, Sarah said. She activated her radio. Indomitable, this is Chen. We have one injured Jothic male, conscious and stable, requesting immediate medical evacuation. A voice responded from the ship. Copy that, Commander. Medical bay standing by. Bring him home. Home, such a strange word to use. Vectar had never been to Earth. It was not his home. Yet the human said it with such confidence. They lifted him onto a stretcher. The movement sent spikes of pain through his body. But the medication David had given him kept it bearable. As they carried him to the airlock, Vectar looked back at the mining station one last time. He had expected to die there. Instead, he was leaving. He did not know if this was better or worse. The boarding craft was warm inside. Vectar had not realized how cold he had become until the heat surrounded him. He started shaking uncontrollably. David wrapped him in a silver blanket that seemed to generate its own warmth. Shock, David explained to Sarah. Plus hypothermia. We got here just in time. Through the craft's window, Vectar watched as they approached the massive human ship. Up close, it was even more impressive. The hull was scarred with impacts, repaired and reinforced. This ship had seen battle, but alongside the weapon ports were observation windows, gardens visible inside, even what looked like recreational areas. What kind of military vessel had gardens? They docked inside a large bay. As the doors opened, Vectar saw dozens of humans moving about, working on various tasks. They all stopped to look as the boarding team brought him through. Their faces showed curiosity and concern. Several smiled at him, though Vectar did not understand the gesture. The medical bay was unlike anything Vectar had ever seen. It was clean and bright with advanced equipment he did not recognize. A female human doctor was waiting along with 2 nurses. They transferred him to a bed that adjusted automatically to his body shape. "I'm Dr. Ramirez," the doctor said. She had dark hair pulled back and kind eyes. "We're going to take care of you. First, I need to scan your whole body to see what we're dealing with. Is that okay?" Was she asking his permission? Vectar nodded, too confused to speak. The scan took only minutes. Dr. Ramirez studied the results on a glowing screen, her expression serious. Fractured leg, 3 cracked sections of exoskeleton, mild internal bleeding, dehydration, malnutrition, and early-stage infection. "You've been through a lot. Will he survive?" Sarah asked. "Absolutely," Dr. Ramirez said firmly. "The leg needs surgery to pin the bones and will need to support the exoskeleton repair with biofoam, but he'll make a full recovery." "Give me 3 weeks, 3 weeks." Vector could not comprehend it. 3 weeks of medical care, of resources spent on him. "I cannot pay," he said again. "I have nothing to trade." Dr. Ramirez looked at him with confusion. "We don't charge for medical care, especially not for rescue cases. You're under Terran protection now. We take care of our own. But I am not Terran." "Doesn't matter," Sarah said. She had removed her helmet and Vectar could see her face clearly now. It was scarred on one side, burn marks that had healed. A warrior. But her eyes were warm. "Any sapient being in distress becomes our responsibility. It's the rescue doctrine. We don't leave people behind. We don't let people die when we can save them. Not ever." Vectar felt something strange in his chest, an emotion he had not felt in years. Not since he was young, before the Confederation trained it out of him. Hope. These humans were insane. They spent resources on strangers. They saved people who could not save themselves. They cared about beings who were not their own species. It made no logical sense, but they had saved him. They were healing him. They were giving him a chance to live. Dr. Ramirez prepared an injection. "This will put you to sleep for the surgery. When you wake up, the worst will be over." "Why?" Vectar asked one more time. "Why do you do this?" Sarah smiled. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because everyone deserves a chance. Because no one should die alone in the dark when we have the power to bring them into the light." The injection entered his bloodstream. Vectar felt warmth spreading through his body. His eyes grew heavy. The last thing he saw before sleep took him was Sarah standing beside his bed, keeping watch. Not leaving. Never leaving. Vectar woke slowly. The pain in his leg was gone, replaced by a dull ache that was almost pleasant in comparison. He opened his eyes to find himself still in the medical bay. Soft lights glowed above. Quiet music played from somewhere. Gentle sounds he did not recognize. Dr. Ramirez appeared beside his bed. "Welcome back. The surgery went perfectly. How do you feel?" Vectar tested his leg carefully. It was encased in a hard cast, but he could feel the bones beneath properly aligned. The agony was gone. "Better," he said, surprised by the truth of it. "Much better." "Good. You'll need to stay off that leg for a week while the bones fuse, but you're healing well." She checked several monitors. "Your infection is gone, your nutrition levels are improving, and your exoskeleton is regenerating nicely. You're going to be fine." Fine. Such a simple word. Such an impossible concept. Days ago, he had been dying. Now he was fine. Over the next week, Vector began to explore the ship from his wheelchair. The humans had given him a motorized chair that responded to simple commands. They insisted he should move around, see the ship, meet the crew. It was, they said, good for healing. The Indomitable was a marvel. Vector had served on Jothic ships for 20 years and he had never seen anything like this. The human vessel was massive, but it was not just a military ship. It was a home. There were quarters for over 200 crew members, each room personalized with photos, artwork, and personal items. There were common areas where crew members gathered to eat, talk, and relax. There was a gym where humans exercised voluntarily, pushing their soft bodies to improve them. There was a library full of books and data tablets. There was even a garden, a real garden with growing plants and the smell of earth. The Jothic built ships for function only. The Terrans built ships for living. In the common room one evening, Vector met other rescued beings. There was Krill, a reptilian Creel who had been pulled from a damaged freighter. There was Mora, a Voth trader whose ship had been destroyed by pirates. Both had been aboard the Indomitable for months, working as crew members while they arranged passage home. "The humans saved me too," Krill said, his scales flashing blue with emotion. "My people would have left me as yours left you. But the Terrans came. They always come." "They are strange," Mora agreed. "My people trade in favors and debts. I tried to negotiate payment for my rescue. The captain refused. He said my life was not for sale." Vector sat with them, listening to their stories. The Terrans had rescued dozens of beings over the years. They asked nothing in return. They simply helped and moved on. Captain Rodriguez visited Vector on the 5th day. He was an older human with gray hair and weathered skin. He sat down beside Vector's bed without asking permission, a casualness that still surprised Vector. "How are you feeling?" the captain asked. "Well," Vector said honestly, "the humans have been very kind." Rodriguez smiled. "Just doing our job. I wanted to talk to you about what happens next." "You have options." "Options?" Vector tilted his head in confusion. "You can request asylum on one of our colony worlds. We have several that would welcome you. Or we can arrange safe passage back to Jothic space, to a location of your choosing. Or you can stay aboard as a temporary crew member while you decide. It's your choice." "My choice," Vector repeated. When had his life ever been his choice? "I know your people have different customs," Rodriguez said carefully. "But here you are free. No one owns you. No one controls you. You decide what happens next." Vector was quiet for a long moment. "Captain, may I ask you a question?" "Of course. Why do humans do this? Why waste resources on strangers? What do you gain?" Rodriguez leaned back in his chair. "We almost destroyed ourselves once, you know. Back on Earth centuries ago. We fought wars over resources, territory, ideology. We came very close to extinction. Do you know what saved us?" Vector shook his head. "We learned to cooperate. We learned that strength comes not from who you can defeat, but from who you can save. We learned that every person has value, that every life matters." Rodriguez looked at Vector directly. "We took that lesson to the stars. The galaxy thinks we're crazy. They say we're too soft, too sentimental. Maybe they're right. But we sleep well at night. My people would say you are inefficient. Your people left you to die," Rodriguez said, not unkindly. "We brought you back to life. Which approach is truly efficient?" Vector had no answer to that. Sarah visited him every day. She would sit and talk about Earth, about human history, about the rescue doctrine that guided all Terran ships. She explained how humans had formed the Terran Confederation not through conquest, but through cooperation. How they had united their fractured world by choosing compassion over cruelty. "We have a saying," Sarah told him. "No one left behind. It started with our military centuries ago, but it became more than that. It became our philosophy. We don't abandon people. We don't give up on people. Everyone gets a chance, even aliens?" Vector asked. "Especially aliens," Sarah said firmly. "You think your people are the only ones who abandon the weak? Every species we've met has some version of survival of the fittest. The strong survive, the weak die. It's universal." She leaned forward. "Except for us. We looked at that universal law and said no. We choose different. We choose better." "Is that not arrogant?" Vector asked carefully. Sarah laughed. "Probably. But we'd rather be arrogant and save lives than humble and let people die." On the 10th day, Vector was able to walk again with a cane. Dr. Ramirez was delighted with his progress. His exoskeleton had regenerated completely. The bones in his leg were fusing ahead of schedule. He was healing in ways he had not thought possible. He stood in the observation deck looking out at the stars. They looked different now. Less cold, less indifferent. The universe was still vast and uncaring, but there were humans in it now. Humans who cared when no one else did. Commander Chen found him there. Beautiful, isn't it? Yes, Vector said. Commander, I have made a decision. Tell me. I want to return to Jathic space, but not to rejoin my crew. He turned to face her. I want to testify before the Confederation Council. I want to tell them about what humans do, about what I have seen. Sarah raised her eyebrows. That could be dangerous for you, I know, but it is the right thing to do. Vector looked back at the stars. You taught me that. The Confederation Council chamber was cold and bright. 7 high coordinators sat in elevated positions, looking down at Vector with compound eyes that showed no emotion. Around them, observers filled the viewing galleries. This testimony had attracted attention. Word had spread that a rescued worker wanted to speak about the humans. Vector stood alone in the center of the chamber. His leg was fully healed now, though he still carried the cane the humans had given him. A gift, they called it. A reminder. He wore his old mining uniform marked with the symbols of his former crew. High Coordinator Zathran spoke first. Engineer Vector, you have requested this testimony under emergency protocols. The Council has granted your request. Speak. Vector touched the data tablet Commander Chen had given him before he left. It contained everything he needed. Everything the Council needed to see. Honored coordinators, he began. I come before you to report on a species known as the Terrans, humans. I have spent 32 days among them. I have seen things that challenge our understanding of efficiency, of logic, of strength. We know of the humans, another coordinator said dismissively. A young species, sentimental. They waste resources on emotional indulgences. This is not news. With respect, Coordinator, I believe we do not truly know them. Vector activated the tablet. A holographic display appeared above him showing data. In the past 15 years, Terran rescue ships have saved 847 individuals from 23 different species. They have asked for nothing in return. No payment, no territory, no political favors. Murmurs ran through the chamber. Even the coordinators shifted slightly. They found me on mining station K477. My crew had followed correct procedure and evacuated, leaving me behind due to my injuries. I was dying. My distress beacon was disabled. I had no resources to trade. I was by all logical measures not worth saving. Vector looked up at the coordinators. The humans came anyway. Why? Zathran asked. What did they want? That is what I asked them, Vector said. Again and again. What do you want? What do you gain? And their answer was always the same. Nothing. They wanted nothing. They came because I needed help. He brought up medical scans showing his injuries before and after. They performed surgery. They gave me medications that cost more than a year of my salary. They fed me, housed me, treated me as an honored guest on their vessel. When I tried to negotiate payment, they refused. When I offered my labor, they said I should rest and heal. This is illogical, a coordinator stated. Resources spent without return. This is the behavior of a species that will not survive. I thought the same, Vector said. But I was wrong. Honored coordinators, the human ship that rescued me was the TCS Indomitable. It is both a warship and a rescue vessel. I have seen its weapons. I have read its combat history. It has defeated Creel raiders, driven off pirate fleets, and survived engagement with hostile forces across 17 star systems. He pulled up the ship's records. The Indomitable has a crew of 214. 53 of them are rescued beings from other species who chose to stay and work alongside humans. The ship is more powerful than any vessel in our fleet, and it patrols the frontier sectors not to conquer but to save. The chamber was quiet now. Every eye was on Vector. I spoke with the human captain. He told me about Earth's history. They nearly destroyed themselves with war and greed, but they survived by learning cooperation. They turned their greatest weakness, their emotional bonds, into their greatest strength. Vector's voice grew stronger. They applied this to every species they meet. They do not see weakness when they see injury. They see potential. They do not see wasted resources when they save a life. They see investment in the future. This is a pleasant speech, Zethran said coldly. But what is your point, engineer? My point is this. Vectar met the coordinator's gaze. We believe we are efficient. We believe our methods produce the strongest society. But the humans are proving us wrong. Their ships are more advanced. Their crew loyalty is absolute. Their influence is spreading across the galaxy not through fear or conquest, but through gratitude. He pulled up a star map showing human activities. Everywhere they go, they leave allies. Species they have rescued become friends. Colonies they have helped become trading partners. They are building a network of goodwill that spans hundreds of systems, and they do it by saving people we would leave behind. You speak as if you admire them, another coordinator said. I do, Vectar said simply, because they saved my life when my own people would not. Because they showed me that there is another way. Because they are what we could be if we chose compassion over cold calculation. Compassion is weakness, Zathran declared. Is it? Vectar challenged. The humans conquered their world. They have the strongest fleet in their region of space. They have technology we do not understand. And they did it all while refusing to abandon their wounded, their sick, their weak. He paused. Perhaps we are the ones who are weak. Perhaps true strength is protecting those who cannot protect themselves. The chamber erupted in angry chittering. The coordinators demanded silence. You go too far, Zathran said. You suggest we abandon millennia of proven efficiency for the emotional indulgences of a young species? I suggest we consider that efficiency without compassion is not efficiency at all, Vectar said. I suggest that a society that abandons its people is not strong, it is brittle. I suggest that the humans understand something we have forgotten. And what is that? That every life has value. That strength comes from unity. That the measure of a civilization is not how it treats its best, but how it treats its worst. Vectar looked around the chamber. I was your worst, broken, useless, left to die. And aliens from across the galaxy saved me. What does that say about us? Silence fell, uncomfortable, heavy. Finally, Zathran spoke. The council will consider your testimony. You are dismissed. Vectar bowed and turned to leave. As he walked toward the exit, he felt no regret. He had spoken truth. Whether the Confederation accepted it or not was beyond his control. Outside the chamber, he activated his communicator. This is Vectar. I am ready. Copy that. Commander Chen's voice came through. Transport is waiting at landing pad 7. Welcome back, friend. Vectar made his way through the Confederation capital for the last time. He had resigned his position, surrendered his citizenship. He was leaving everything behind, but he was not afraid. The human transport was small but comfortable. The pilot, a young woman named Martinez, greeted him with a smile. Ready to go home? Home. Vectar was going to the human colony on New Terra. He would work there as an engineer. He would live among humans and other rescued beings. He would help build something new. As the transport lifted off, Vectar looked down at the Confederation capital. Somewhere down there, the coordinators were debating what he had said. Maybe they would change. Maybe they would not, but he had changed. The humans had shown him another way. His communicator chimed. A message from Sarah. Heard your testimony went well. Proud of you. When you get to New Terra, look me up. The Indomitable docks there between missions. We'll grab coffee. Coffee. A human drink. Bitter and strange and somehow comforting. Vectar sent a reply. Thank you. For everything. Thank us. Sarah's response came back quickly. You're the one who testified. You're the one who stood up. You're brave, Vectar. Brave. No one had ever called him that before. The transport jumped to faster than light speed. The stars blurred into lines of light. Vectar watched them, thinking about everything that had happened. 39 days ago, he had been left to die in the dark, alone, forgotten. Then the humans came. They shattered the quiet. They brought light. They proved that the universe did not have to be cold and indifferent, because there were beings in it who chose to care. Vectar did not know if his testimony would change the Confederation. But it had changed him. And perhaps that was enough. Perhaps change spread like this, one person at a time, one act of kindness creating ripples across the galaxy. He looked at his data tablet. On it was the file Commander Chen had given him, the Indomitable's current mission board, 14 active rescue operations in progress across 7 systems. The humans were out there right now, finding people in the dark, bringing them into the light, never leaving anyone behind. Vector smiled, a gesture he had learned from humans. He was going home, not to the world where he was born, but to a place where he belonged. A place where every life mattered, where no one was left behind, where the stars were not cold anymore, because there were humans among them, burning bright with stubborn, impossible compassion.